Disney Princess 5-minute horse stories. Against all odds. Princess Jasmine and Aladdin were strolling across the palace grounds one evening when the Sultan ran out onto the balcony. "Drat!" the Sultan cried. "That dratted desert race!" Every year, the best riders from Agrabah competed against the riders from a neighboring kingdom. The fastest horse and rider were awarded a giant golden trophy. Jasmine's father was upset because the prince of the neighboring kingdom had won it for the previous 3 years. "I have an idea, father," Jasmine said eagerly. "I could ride my horse Midnight in the desert race this year. He's the fastest horse in Agrabah." The Sultan wasn't sure. Jasmine had never raced before. "How about if I ride Midnight in the race?" Aladdin suggested. He had participated in many competitions on the streets of Agrabah. They all agreed Aladdin would compete in the race. Nobody but Jasmine had ever ridden Midnight. So the next day, they went to the stables to give Aladdin and the horse a chance to get to know each other. When Aladdin went toward him with the saddle, Midnight jumped out of reach. When Aladdin swung up onto Midnight's back, the horse kicked up his heels. Aladdin went flying. But when Jasmine climbed on the saddle, the horse did everything she asked. It looked like Midnight was a one princess horse. Aladdin said he would find another horse to ride in the race. The day of the race arrived. Riders from the neighboring kingdom paraded into Agrabah, including the prince and his big white stallion. When it was time for the race, fans jostled for the best views. It seemed everyone but Jasmine was there to watch. As they took their spots at the starting line, the prince and his horse looked confident. Suddenly, Aladdin joined the line. He was riding a very strange-looking blue horse. In fact, it wasn't a horse at all. It was the genie in disguise. The Sultan raised his flag. "1, 2, 3, he called, and they're off. The race was on. A black horse with a mysterious veiled rider took the lead right away. As soon as they were out of view of the palace, the rider threw off the veil. It was Jasmine. "I had to prove you were the fastest horse," she whispered to Midnight. Jasmine raced hard to keep her lead ahead of the other riders. As the race went on, Jasmine stayed in the lead. But then the prince and his horse started to catch up. They were shocked when they saw the princess. The prince didn't want to lose. Jasmine urged her horse on. But Midnight couldn't seem to pull away. The prince's horse was big, strong, and very fast. Finally, it edged ahead of Midnight. "Give up now," the prince shouted. Jasmine and Midnight weren't going to let the prince and his horse win. Midnight galloped hard and past them. "That trophy is Agrabah's," Jasmine called over her shoulder with a laugh. But the prince and his horse weren't giving up either. They stayed right at Midnight's heels until the horses had to jump a ditch that crossed their path. Midnight sailed over it easily, but the prince's horse skidded to a stop, throwing off its rider. With the prince and his horse out of the running, it seemed there was nothing keeping Jasmine and Midnight from winning. But just then, Jasmine heard the sound of hoofbeats right behind her. They were coming up fast. Jasmine turned back to see who was following her. She gasped. It was Aladdin, and there was something off about his horse. Soon Aladdin and his mystery horse had caught up, and he and Jasmine were fighting for the lead. Jasmine really wanted to prove that Midnight was the fastest horse in the two kingdoms, and that she was the best rider. She pushed Midnight harder and harder. As they neared the finish line, the two horses were neck and neck. First, Midnight would pull ahead a tiny bit. Then Aladdin's horse would take over, but neither could keep the lead. The two horses crossed the finish line at the same time. As soon as Midnight slowed to a stop, Jasmine jumped off. She gave her tired horse a hug and led him to the water trough for a drink. Her father ran over. "Excellent work, you two." "Jasmine, you are a natural racer," the Sultan cried, grabbing the trophy and holding it up. "Agrabah is victorious at last. Twice over, in fact." Her father was right. Both she and Aladdin had won. She needed to congratulate him and ask him a question. She walked over to Aladdin, who was standing with his odd-looking horse. "Congratulations," he said when he saw her. "Same to you," Jasmine replied. "But where in the world did you find yourself such a fast horse?" Aladdin looked at his horse, then he looked at his feet. He didn't seem to know what to say. Just then, the genie changed from a horseback into his usual form. Jasmine gasped. "Sorry, princess," the genie said with a wink. "We were just horsing around." When the Sultan realized what Aladdin had done, he frowned. The rules said only a horse and rider team could win the trophy. Aladdin and the genie were disqualified, and that meant Jasmine and Midnight were the winners. Jasmine patted Midnight proudly. Soon, she and Midnight took their spots at the head of the victory parade. She had always known Midnight was fast, but she never imagined he was so fast that he could match a genie for speed.